guys, thanks for tuning in. Today I have a book review for you all, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing today is called The White Oak by Kim White, and it is the first book in her Imperfect Darkness series. And maybe some of you guys are familiar with this book, maybe not, but I did another video on this book. It wasn't a book review, it was just my lazy Sunday, here's what I'm reading book, and I kind of went over my thoughts on it thus far and what it was about. But if you guys didn't catch that video, I will put a link to it so you guys can check it out if you feel like it, and kind of give you guys an overview about it before I start talking about what I like, what I didn't like, and my rating for it. This story is about a girl named Cora Alexander who falls through a sinkhole the day of her father's funeral and ends up in the underworld still alive. And essentially what she's trying to do is she is trying to get out of the underworld still alive. And she gets a lot of help from various characters throughout the story who, you know, go out of their way to try and get her out of there and get her out of harm's way. But there's just other forces in this book throughout the story that are just trying to keep her there and trying to basically execute her / exile her. So I'm giving this book a 3.25 to a 3.5 star rating out of 5 stars. And I know that's kind of a weird, random number to give a book. Normally people just give books, you know, a 3 or 3.5 or 4 or anywhere on that scale. They don't actually sit there and break down the ratings. But I kind of felt like this book was good, but it wasn't really, really good, and it wasn't great. So I kind of had to just divide it in the middle and give my honest rating for this book. And there's a couple of reasons why I gave it the rating that I did. This book actually took me a lot longer than I hoped for, that I wanted to finish reading it. And I think one of the reasons why it took me so long to finish reading this book is because I wasn't as interested in it. It was kind of boring to me, and I hate to say that, but it kind of did bore me a little bit. So I would put it down and then I would pick it up a few days later, and it was just like, oh, I just didn't want to read it sometimes. And I think one of the reasons for that is because I didn't connect with any of the characters. I found the main character, Cora, to be a little bit dull and boring, and so I kind of didn't care too much. But some of the other characters in the story were pretty interesting. My favorite character out of all the characters in the story was Minotaur, which was the computer program. And what I liked about him was that he changed personas depending on what person it was that he was talking to. For example, if he was talking to Cora's brother Lucas, he would assume the persona of Lieutenant Garrison, which was his favorite character when he was growing up in a video game. And if he was talking to Cora, he would assume like different personas as far as she was concerned. So he was definitely my favorite character in the book. Like I said, the characters didn't really catch my attention, and I think one of the reasons for that is because there wasn't really a lot of information on the characters. Like, I feel like there wasn't enough background information on them for me to know why they acted the way they acted and why they did some of the things that they did, or why they felt some of the ways they felt. I feel like there was information on them and there was a description on them, but I feel like it wasn't enough. I feel like at times something was missing. And so maybe that's why I didn't really connect with the characters as much. I feel like if I had gotten some more information on the characters, maybe I would have cared a little bit more for them. In my opinion, I feel if you're going to be writing a series, or if you're going to be writing a story, you want to give as much information on the character without giving away too much information and spoiling the story. And I felt like I didn't get enough information, especially with a book that is a series and that there is another book coming out in this series. I felt like there wasn't enough information on the character, and because of that, there really wasn't any character development. But I'm not sure if the author did that on purpose and was planning to just include all of that additional information in her next book. So I'm not really sure. I did, however, enjoy the concept of this book. I really liked the storyline in this book. I like the fact that the author was talking about the underworld, and I kind of expected Hades to pop up somewhere throughout this book, but he didn't, which is okay. But I really did like the fact that she was talking about the underworld, and I like the fact that the book was really creative and it had a lot of different elements to it. I like that it was action-packed. Definitely like that it was action-packed. From the first chapter when Cora falls into the sinkhole and ends up having to, like, you know, find her way out of these caves and gets swept up by this river and ends up in the underworld. It was just action from the beginning of the book, and I like that. You know, I like having action, whether it's in the beginning of the book, in the middle, or the end. I like having some sort of action in the book. I don't want it to be dull or boring, and so that definitely took care of the dull or boring aspect of it. Despite the fact that the characters were a little bit dull, I like the fact that there was events going on throughout the book. Like, there were dull moments, but at the same time the book had its moments, and there were events that were interesting, events that made you think, or events that were just, you know, cute and quirky and interesting. So I really like that about this book. Along with the action that was in this book, I also really enjoyed the pacing. Like I said, it had a really good pacing because there was a lot of events that took place throughout this book, so it wasn't like you read 100 or so pages and it was just boring and nothing happened. There was always something going on in this book, whether it was Cora trying to get from, you know, Asphodel to the boat, or from the boat through the gates, or from the gates to the city, you know, down below, or from the city down below where she got kidnapped. Like, there was always something going on in the book, and I definitely like that about this book. Overall, this was a pretty good book. There could have been some improvements, some adjustments, but overall it was a really good book. I really did enjoy it. The one thing that kind of irked me at the end of the book was the huge cliffhanger that happened at the end of the book. I kind of felt like the cliffhanger was a similar kind of cliffhanger that you see when you're watching a TV series at the end of an episode or at the end of a season. It's like something exciting or suspenseful happens and then it just ends, and you're waiting for something else to happen, but you have to wait like 6 weeks for the next season to come out. And it was a cliffhanger, and maybe it's just me and the fact that I'm a very curious and inquisitive person, and I wanted to choke myself when I got to the end of the book and there was a huge cliffhanger. But I guess this could be considered a spoiler. If you don't want to get spoiled and you want to read this book for yourself, maybe I wouldn't watch this part of the video. But at the end of the book, Cora is put on trial because she is alive, she is in the underworld, which apparently has only happened twice, and she is the second person to come into the underworld. And the fact that she is still alive and has access to free will is something that really scares the people within this city and scares the justices, which is the governing body in that city. It scares them because they're kind of afraid that people are going to start to revolt and cause chaos. So they kind of decide that they want to either execute her or they want to exile her. And so she's put on trial, and this is where the cliffhanger happens. I'm kind of expecting to get maybe 2 or 3 chapters, you know, with what's going on in the trial and what happens at the end of the trial and what she decides to do. But once her sentence is agreed upon by everyone in that council, that's where the book ends. We don't know what she's thinking, we don't know what she's going to do, what's going to happen. It's just, that is the end of the book. And I was kind of like, I was just a little bit annoyed because I don't really like cliffhangers as it is, and to have a cliffhanger in a book and then have to wait who knows how many months or even years for another book to come out is just really painful. It's really painful. So this is my review for Kim White's The White Oak. I hope you guys take the time to check this book out, maybe even read it. You might like it more than I did. I know I have very different tastes than most people, and I'm very picky as far as my stories go and what kind of things I like and what I don't like in a story. So you never know, you guys might like it better than I did. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you